Oh, what's going on, guys? Gamer Dude back once again, and today we are here with a debate, or rather, more of an idea. But before we begin, y'all know the routine, or at least I hope you do by now. If you are new to the channel, please make sure you smash that like button and drop me a subscribe, because it would just be your good deed of the day. Same applies if you are a returning viewer. Now then, right into the debate. So, I have just finished Marvel's Spider-Man 2. I've just got the Platinum Trophy. And I'm thinking where the game's future can go from here. As you can tell from the footage on screen, I'm thinking they should do a prequel game like Arkham Origins. Now, hear me out. As I said, this is just an idea, or rather a debate. A debate for the comments, that is, but this is my idea. Now, I believe Spider-Man 2 has definitely laid the perfect groundwork for its own Arkham Origins inspired spin-off. And that's simply because we got a bunch of excuse me. We got a bunch of flashback gameplay from Peter's early years as Spider-Man. You know, we have him sneaking into Midtown High School using his powers. And we have that sequence where he's riding through the city on his bike, heading to meet Jameson, and he fights those guys in the street. Now, I think a game inspired around the early years of Spider-Man would be great, because then, you know, we could see Mysterio in action when he was a villain, because this game establishes him as a good guy now. We could see Vulture first attacking him outside school, like you mentioned in the Miles Morales game. We could see Sandman, Shocker, Electro, etc., etc. You know the deal, because heavy spoilers, by the way, if you haven't played the game. Most of those villains are now dead. Kraven killed them. So it would be great for an Arkham Origins inspired spin-off to see the origins of these villains as well, you know, and a game like that, you know, because Peter just gets a job at the Daily Bugle, as we saw in one of the flashbacks. So a lot of the side missions would be heavily inspired by taking pictures. And I like doing that. I've got over 300 screenshots just taking pictures in the game, so I like doing that. Anyway, now, of course, Batman Arkham Origins wasn't the most popular game. In fact, it was the introduction to the series, well, rather, it was most people's introduction to the series, and it took people quite a while to finish, because they just couldn't, you know, they couldn't get the bearings on it, as opposed to Asylum, City, and Night. Now, the more interesting and captivating Black Mask was, of course, the protagonist in Arkham Origins, and unprecedented villain in Batman adaptations, was pushed aside for yet another Joker. While the combat often felt sluggish and unsatisfying, not to mention this younger version of Batman never stood out. But I couldn't really tell you anything indefinite about him looking back. You wouldn't know if he was younger if the game didn't tell you. So when fans suggested that Insomniac Spider-Man get his own Origins-style outing, I must admit, I was kind of skeptical about the idea. You know, I would prefer a Venom-inspired spin-off game, like they did with Miles Morales. Just call it Venom. You know, that'd be great. You know, and it takes place between the ending events of Spider-Man 2 up to that big lead-up boss battle. Now, after playing and finishing Spider-Man 2, all I can think about now was how much I wanted to see Insomniac tackle this younger version of Peter Parker. You know, he's still in high school, he's just got his first job, Aunt May's still alive. The only thing he's got to worry about is, well, is web fluid, really, you know, because he's still in high school. He doesn't have to worry about earning money, because his Aunt May does it all for him. And in Spider-Man 1 and 2, we saw Peter struggling with his financial issues. So it'd be great to, like, take a step back from all that, and, you know, he can just be Spider-Man. Now, Harry Osborn's return is a lot like Nathan Drake's brother Sam in the Uncharted 4 game. Peter did not expect him to show up, but is overjoyed to see him and eager to pick up where they left off, which I kind of have a bit of an issue with, because as soon as Harry comes back, he really brushes off Miles. Even before he gets the black suit, he's brushing him off, he's dodging his calls. He's like, oh, I'll call you back, I've got this thing to do with Harry. Oh no, I'll call you later, I'm busy. It's like, dude, Miles isn't just your student, he's your friend, you know, and you're completely brushing him off just because your friends come back. It's like, yeah, I know, you know he's been sick and you want to spend as much time with him as possible, but don't brush off your other friends just because of that. So that was an issue I had with that, but yeah, moving on. The two quickly reconcile while you flip between the past and present. And I really liked that. I really liked the moving between past and present, because we didn't really see any of that in the Spider-Man game and the Miles Morales game. So the fact that Insomniac dove into it in this game, it really got me in the feels, you know. I was like, oh, younger Peter. It's like, I wanted to see that, you know, I really did. Now, as you peer into their teenage years, it's a captivating way to establish a new character in the backstory of an existing character that you already know extremely well. I get why they were best friends now. As we see them sneak into the school after dark together, you know, they talk about how Flash used to beat up on him, how they never got revenge on him, all the crazy stuff they did in school, and the events leading up to the present day. But after seeing them sneak into the school after dark together, pulling off an elaborate heist to acquire a USB stick after school bully Flash Thompson smashed up Harry's laptop, was just captivating to me. It kind of made me want them to deliver on this story. You know, maybe like in the first game where they did 3 DLCs, they could do, instead of like a separate game, you know, maybe do 3 DLCs based on Peter's early years. You know, you start off as the adult version of Peter. Given the events of Spider-Man 2, it looks like he's taking a back seat now. So it could be that, you know, he's talking to MJ about his early years, and she's like, oh, I didn't know you did that, this, that, and this. And then it flashes back, and you're into that game. You know, well, that sort of DLC. And you play through that, and then if they do another one to that, there's the second part, and the third part, and, you know, the story goes through those 3 little stories, if you see where I'm coming from. See, personally, I think it would be a great idea. And Insomniac could definitely captivate on it. Now, obviously, Harry and Peter's bond is definitely brotherly. And getting to witness it firsthand does far more to show that than words ever could. You know, because we get to see these two characters develop as kids into the adults that we see them as in Marvel Spider-Man and Marvel Spider-Man 2. Which, you know, they didn't really dive into their past in those 2 games, so it would be great to see. But yeah, most of all, the brief glimpse into the past promises an exciting chapter of Peter's life that would make for an incredible Miles Morales-style spin-off game, or as I said, just something DLC-based like they did with the first game. Now, we find out a few details from the flashbacks, but there's even more information in Aunt May's house. After the first mission, when you see Peter moving into her place following her death at the end of the first game, there's these old photos that MJ's going through that Peter just completely forgot were there. And they're showing him with his circular specs on. Like, he's got like this Clark Kent vibe going on, you know? It's like he's trying to keep his secret identity. In his room, you can also find a few more little tidbits here and there, like a wrestling poster between Crusher Hogan and the Spider, which was featured in the first game as a collectible. It was one of the backpack items. Now, This poster actually reveals some interesting information. It reveals that the fight was in 2010. Back then, he had his original prototype suit, the one we can unlock in the first Spider-Man game. Disappointed it wasn't in this game, but what are you going to do? This game has a shit ton of suits anyway. And yeah, he hadn't yet landed on the iconic Spider-Man name yet. He was still basically calling himself the Human Spider or the Spider. He hadn't called himself Spider-Man yet. Now, the idea that an adult Spider-Man got his start in 2010 is a bit unusual. But it means that Harry was in Glee Club. He even sings "Never Gonna Give You Up" at one point. And it's absolutely hilarious. You're in the gym in the flashback and Harry just goes over the school's intercom like "Never Gonna Give You Up," and it is absolutely brilliant. I was creasing up with laughter. It was just so good. Now, of course, the first flashback is very early days in the game, and there are plenty more flashbacks to Peter's childhood as the game progresses. You know, as I mentioned earlier, there's that one of him cycling through the city on his way to his first interview at the Daily Bugle, meeting Jameson. And I just love the chemistry and the vibe that sets up, because it's Peter, like, you know, he's super excited to get this job. You know, he's super excited to meet JJJ. And yeah, he doesn't know how much of a thorn in his side he's going to be. He doesn't know how much of a douche he's going to be. He's just super excited to get this job. And I would really like Insomniac to just dive into that, you know, so we can see something from Peter's past. Now, however, just seeing a young Insomniac Peter Parker crawling through his high school's vents and plummeting a wash bucket into a cardboard cutout of Flash Thompson ahead of the homecoming dance has me excited of the prospect of digging a lot deeper into the early life of this character. You know, an Arkham Origins style Spider-Man game, it would be great. You know, and it wouldn't even be that out of place, because as I mentioned earlier, you know, even if they did it as like a DLC, it could start off with older Peter, with Mary Jane, talking about his past. You know, she's pulling up all these pictures and she says, "Oh, what about this one?" And that leads into a series of events in the flashback. Then DLC number 2, she starts talking about these other pictures. It's very similar to what happened in the original 3 DLCs for the first game. You know, you had Mary Jane's voiceover in the background, and there was all these pictures. And, you know, those pictures were the events of the story that you were going to play. So it could be something similar to that. You know, just since Peter seems to be taking a back seat to Spider-Man now, he could just be wanting to relive his glory days. This isn't just a facsimile of other adaptations to pad out history either. I just feel like it should happen. You know, there's rich and unique characterizations unlike anything we've seen when we get these flashbacks. And visually, it's definitely striking, and it looks awfully similar to the Ultimate comics. I definitely got Ultimate Spider-Man vibes when I was playing those flashbacks. If you haven't played the Ultimate Spider-Man game on the PS2, I do recommend that. It's, again, one of the best Spider-Man games to date, aside from, of course, the PS1 version, which is always a personal favourite of mine because it's what made me fall in love with superhero games. And, you know, even with it being set at Homecoming, it feels kind of reminiscent to the Tom Holland Spider-Man films. You know, you kind of get this vibe, because there's Homecoming posters all over the school. You get this vibe of Homecoming, and you think, oh, okay, I see what they were doing there. That's a nice jab, you know, and it keeps it fresh, it keeps it real, while putting their own spin on it, and I like that. Now, Harry and Peter behaving like two mischievous brothers is also fresh. Not to mention that this Peter isn't an Avenger and stands alone. There was a little jibe at that in one of the crossover comic books I did, where Insomniac Spider-Man met the Ultimate Spider-Man. They asked each other how many superheroes were in each universe, and Peter of the Insomniac was like, well, I don't know, they're always away, which is a nice jab at how the superheroes are always missing in Peter's world. Well, in the Insomniac Peter's world. Now, I would love to find out how that isolation and how keeping his secret for so long shaped him into the Peter Parker Spider-Man that we know. Now, let me know down in the comments what you think. Do you think this is a terrible idea? Do you think I'm talking out of my arse? Do you think they're just going to go ahead with a Venom game and then lead into the Wolverine game? Or do you think that it would do great as a DLC to see Peter talking about his past to Mary Jane, and we get a bunch of these like early Spider-Man missions, you know, where he's wearing his classic iconic suit and he's just called the Spider? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. So yeah, that's it for this video then. I hope you all enjoyed it. Once again, if you are new to the channel, please make sure you smash that like button and drop me a subscribe, because it would just be a good deed of the day. Until the next one, this has been Gamer Dude. Happy gaming, and I will catch you all in the next one, guys.